Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regular scheduled council meeting. It's Tuesday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. Ms. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Charlie Davidson, George Glover, Linda Westhofer,
Here.
Charles Swanky,
Here.
Terry Osborne,
Here.
Troy Hill,
Here.
Randy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And I would just point out that Councilman Davidson had notified me that he'll be here, but he was just a little delayed. If you'll please stand, Pastor Isaacs will lead us in our invocation tonight, and Chief Boston will join or lead the pledge.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for what you do for the community and serving so well. So we'll keep praying for you long past tonight, but let's pray together. Father God, we come, we thank you for freedom, we thank you for democracy, we thank you for Park City. And Lord, we just pray that you would be glorified in this place tonight, that you would be honored. Father, thank you for the servants that are there sitting down behind the desk, Lord, and the servants of this community. Father, we pray safety over those who respond and help in crisis. Lord, we pray for wisdom in what is to transpire here tonight. God, we just pray your hand upon this place. And we thank you for those who volunteer their time, their efforts, and their talents to make Park City better. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. Start out with approval of the agenda. George Glover.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the agenda.
Jim Schroeder.
I second it.
Okay, motion by George, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We have no awards and presentations tonight. Nobody has signed up for public forum. Staff reports. D.
Barlow's handing out a couple of reports relative to this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with the report titled City of Park City Tax Distributions. It provides the current year-to-date collections as well as annual amounts received in the prior 5 years. A few rows up from the bottom of the report, the row labeled subtotal property taxes shows you how much we've been increasing in property tax collections each year due to increasing valuations while maintaining the same mill levy, with the exception of the half mill reduction each of the 2 years of 2023 and 2024 for the 2024 and 2025 collections. That equates to $66,810 less taxes that were levied for 2024 budget, and $145,187 less for the 2025 budget, because now it's a total of 1 mil lower. Below that is a percentage increase over the prior year's collections, and right below that are the final mill levies for each of the years. It's not shown on this report, but your 2025 year-to-date collections have increased 4.89% over collections for the same time period last year, even though we decreased our mill levy. That's at least partially a result of our increase in assessed valuation from $133.6 million to $145.2 million. Please remember, the increase in revenue comes with increases in our costs as well. We have street work, sidewalks, vehicles, equipment, labor, everything is getting more and more expensive. We annually receive 6 property tax distributions from the county. The January distribution is the largest, and June is the second largest due to the first and second half of the property taxes being due to the county on December 20th and May 10th, respectively. The October and December distributions are the smallest, with December being mostly a cleanup distribution for the motor vehicle taxes. As a reminder, the slight fluctuation in the mill levies from year to year that are shown on this report, they don't look like just the half mill that we talk about or so forth. They're due to cities basing their budgets on the estimated assessed valuation to determine the dollars to budget. And then once the county knows the final assessed valuation, they adjust the mill levy slightly to provide the dollars that the cities have budgeted. If the final assessed value is higher than the estimate they provided us, then the mill levy is adjusted down and vice versa. So even though we are attempting to levy exact same mills as the previous year, or 0.5 less than the previous year, it gets adjusted and we have no control over that final mill levy. If you'd please go to the second report I provided, it includes the sales tax, franchise fees, and so forth. For each type of revenue, we've provided the full amount of each full year's collections. They're in the column on the left. And then the one to the right of that is the year-to-date column that shows how much we've collected this year as compared to collections through the same time frame in each of the prior years. Some sections of the report reflect year-to-date collections through March and others through April because we haven't yet received all of the April payments. In case of the franchise fees, as I mentioned to you in the past, we receive a lot of payments throughout each month, so I do not include the current month's franchise fee revenues. It would only be a partial month, and it would not be apples to apples because there's so many payments that come in that month. Sales tax. For our year-to-date county sales tax, the collections are higher than all the prior years on the report. Each of the January, February, and March 2025 receipts are a record high compared to the same month in all the prior years. Unfortunately, the tariff wars may squelch that growth as consumers pull back on spending. However, since the price of items is also increasing, the sales tax on each item we purchase will also be higher, so I think we'll just have to kind of wait and see what the impact is going to be as a result of that. As for the local 1% city sales tax in the middle of the top section, there's a 2-month lag from the time most businesses collect sales tax until we receive it from the state. Since our local 1% city sales tax went into effect on January 1st last year, the majority of businesses remitted their January sales tax collections to the state by February 25th, and then we received it from the state near the end of March. We therefore didn't receive anything in January, only a tiny amount in February, and then approximately $163,000 in March. The year-to-date amounts on this report for 2024 and 2025 are therefore not comparable. But the March distribution this year is approximately $11,000 higher than the last March distribution, so that is a good sign. Franchise fees. We receive franchise tax payments from Evergy, Kansas One Gas, Cox, and Southwestern Bell AT&T. In most cases, the revenue received by the city is for the utility company's prior month sales. Collections through the end of March this year are $277,900 as compared to $261,800 for the same time period last year, which is an increase of $16,000. Local revenue sharing, and this is the Crosswinds Casino revenue. Under the MOU between the City of Park City and the Wyandotte Nation, the city receives quarterly payments of $187,500, which is $750,000 a year. We've received 2 of the quarterly payments this year, totaling $375,000. Gas tax. We receive these payments quarterly from the state and the county, but the time period of the states and counties' quarters are different. To date, we've received 2 quarters of the state's payments, but only 1 quarter of the county's payments. The total of the state's 2 quarters are higher than all the prior years, but not much higher than the last 2 years. The one county gas tax payment we received this year is slightly more than 2024's and slightly less than 2023's. The gas tax was implemented to pay for maintaining roads, but the payments nowhere near cover the costs of our street work. In 2024, we budgeted $1,250,000 for street improvements, not including all the other street-related costs, and we received only $341,000 in gas tax collections. Our 2024 transfer to the Special Streets and Highway Fund from the general fund was $2,394,000. That's the equivalent of almost 18 mills at $133,617 per mill. Because we must also cover those other street-related costs that include such things as staff salaries and benefits, equipment, fuel, sidewalk improvements, and so forth. So the general fund subsidizes special streets and highways fund by 7 times the amount of the gas tax received last year. If you recall, the gas tax is based on gallons, not dollars, purchased at the pump. The amount charged on each gallon purchased has been unchanged since 2003. That's over 20 years. Transit gas tax. Collections for the full year of 2024 increased only $555 over those of 2023. I'm happy to report that the first quarterly payment in 2025 is $68,318, which is the highest first quarter payment we've ever received since 2020. That's refreshing because last year's first quarter payment was the lowest in history for our Encode software, which goes back to 2011. With a considerable amount of activity in Park City, more hotels are planned for the future, which will increase the transit guest tax collections once they open and have begun remitting tourism tax to the state. Liquor tax. For the full year of 2024, we collected $192,426, which was the highest year we've ever had. Just a reminder of the reason of the huge 2022 increase. It was 125% more than the 2021 collections due to liquor being sold at the casino that was new at that time. We've received only one quarterly distribution so far this year, but it's the highest first quarter payment in our Encode software. The second highest first quarter payment was last year. Interest income. For the full year of 2024, the city received interest income totaling $1,260,608 as compared to just under $730,000 in 2023. The large increase in 2024 can be attributed to the city issuing a $26.9 million temporary note to avoid our overall unencumbered cash going in the hole due to some very large contracts that were going to be approved. That would have been a cash basis violation because we cannot legally have negative unencumbered cash. Unencumbered cash is the amount of cash the city has less accounts payable and purchase orders, regardless of whether anything has actually been paid yet. It could be paid 9 months from now, but we still got to, if we've committed to spending it, we've got to have it covered in our unencumbered cash. Cities are required to have enough cash to cover everything they have committed to, even if they haven't actually spent it. For the first 3 months this year, we've earned $274,710 in interest. That's the extent of my report this evening. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
I do. I want to back up to the very start of your presentation. You talked about the mill levy reduction on that. I was trying to track which column and where you're at on that.
Down at the bottom, there's a final mill levy row.
Okay, so in 2023, we were at 44.459.
Yes.
And then you noted how much of a reduction that was? Where is that at in this column?
How much as far as the mill levy reduction?
How much less we brought in that following year when we reduced it in 23?
We actually are increasing our collection. So 2023, we got $6,184,000. 2024, we got $6,340,000. 2022 was $5,016,000.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood that. I thought you were saying there was a reduction.
Reduction in the mill levy.
Okay.
We did the half mil.
That was the 44.459. Okay. But the increased assessments is what increases that number. Yes.
The assessed valuation, yes.
Okay. Great. So the increase that year was about 1.1 million, even with the reduction? And that compared to...
Mayor, I can't hear you.
So the 2022 was 5 million,
Yes,
and then the 2023 was 6.1 million.
Correct.
1.8, and then the 2024 was 6.3 million, and those are all in light of and including the half a mil decrease, which,
2040 and 25 have a half mil.
okay, yes. But because the collection was the following year is what you...
Right, correct, correct.
Great. So right now, we're down 1 mil. Okay.
Yes, yes. Again, with a little tweaking because of the counties using the final assessed values.
All right, and then on the tax the other taxes collected. For the gas tax, you indicated, what did you say our budget this year, or last year was 1.25 million for street improvements?
We budgeted $1,250,000 for street improvements, yes.
And then, do you know what the 2025, is that 1.5, is that correct? Great. Excellent. And that's where a significant amount of that, okay. And then I just wanted to note, I guess, for the record, the transient guest taxes collected at the hotels as the bed tax. And I was looking back at 2021, the biggest decrease, that would have been the year that the Red Coach closed. So now we've now exceeded that number.
Yes.
Wow. I'm trying to think if the Crosswinds was closed for a little while during that same time for that renovation, maybe?
Crosswinds was closed in 2023 for 9 months.
So it is down to 54,000 that year, so that makes sense. So everything's back going again, and we've
Yes, sir.
actually replaced the Best Western. Okay. Liquor tax, we're at 44,000, and you said we had a record-setting year. I didn't realize that we collect liquor tax from the Crosswinds Casino, but we do.
Yes. If you recall, we were kind of trying to figure that out one year, and it dawned on us that they were selling liquor, and we were thinking more of liquor stores instead of, but yes, they do.
Okay.
Big bump.
And does that money, I know it goes into the liquor fund, is that what that's called?
It goes into 3 different funds.
And,
There's general, and then we have 2 separate liquor tax funds. One is for police. We've kind of adjusted those. The law states certain things, but we're able to make our own. So we've got 3 different funds. One's parks, one's streets, and excuse me. I'm drawing blanks here.
that's okay.
Police, parks, and streets.
Police, parks, and general fund.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions of the council? And for the record, Charlie's here. Any questions, Charlie?
No, sir.
They're all spun up? Okay. No other questions? Great, thank you, Dee. Sean?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates tonight. The first was a report on this past weekend for the Brush and Tree Limb Day. Despite the rain and the cold wind, Public Works crew assisted 78 vehicles with disposal of their brush and limbs, so that was a good turnout. Next, we have the Grove Lift Station. The project is complete, and the improvements include 2 new pumps and a prefabricated drop-in housing structure for the controls. The previous lift station utilized a vacuum pump to pump out the waste, but it experienced frequency issues controlling the vacuum, keeping the vacuum primed, leading to some downtime, whereas this new station relies on submersible pumps, which should eliminate the vacuum issues and therefore downtime. Next is the 2024 rehab project going on for the streets. The concrete extension and the 2-inch mill and overlay have been completed on both Jacksonville and Ravina. The contractor is currently working on installing the new water line connection and clearing the trees adjacent to Grove on the north end in preparation for the roadway connection from Fairchild to the High Ridge subdivision. Crews will spend the remainder of this week finishing up those 2 items, and then approximately 3 weeks constructing the street connection. And then followed by that, they'll complete the 2-inch mill and overlay from Grove all the way from Fairchild to 61st Street. Finally, as far as Park Center, work continues on Park Center Drive, just right out here in front of City Hall, as well as the roundabout at the southern end of it. They should be complete with the southern portion within the next 2 to 3 weeks, followed by another week and a half or 2 weeks for the northern portion where it connects actually to 61st Street. And then finally, as a reminder, we're having the groundbreaking ceremony for the new senior center on May 3rd. It's a Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m., naturally on site. The address is 1811 Stewart Drive. And again, that's May 3rd at 11 o'clock for the groundbreaking ceremony for the senior center. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of Sean? Okay, next is a consent agenda. Brandy,
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Terry,
Second.
motion by Terry, motion by Brandy, seconded by Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Under old business, consider ordinance regulating the operation of special purpose vehicles within the city.
Mayor and council, the ordinance that you have in front of you is quite a bit shorter than the model ordinance that we talked about at last meeting. And I believe it incorporates all of the modifications and amendments that at least the majority of the council talked about. So you're free to discuss it and amend it further if that is your pleasure. But this, I think, reflects the will of the majority of the council from last meeting's discussion.
Charles.
Okay, I want to get some things so I'm sure I understand them right. Under definitions, you define golf cart and worksite utility vehicles shall have the same meaning. And number B, utility terrain vehicles is the same as a worksite. Special, then on C, special purpose vehicle means golf cart, worksite, utility vehicle, and utility terrain vehicle, either individually or collectively. So is that saying in simple language, basically, that when we refer to a golf cart, we're referring to all four of those? Or if you're referring to any one of them, you're still referring to all four of them going back the other way?
Golf cart, I just realized before we got to this item that I hadn't brought my standard traffic ordinance in to read the definition of a golf cart, but because the state statutes do limit us a little bit on what we can do, we've adopted the same definition as what's in the standard traffic ordinance. A golf cart, I probably have more in these definitions than I needed. I didn't really focus on that, and now that you've said that, I might change that a little bit before we publish this. But what we're really regulating here are golf carts, a separate item, and those are golf carts as you think of them. Sorry, I don't have the specific definition, but they're designed for being used on golf courses to carry golf clubs and golfers. Worksite utility vehicle is defined in the standard traffic ordinance, and we further defined utility terrain vehicle as being the same as a worksite utility vehicle. So all we're really regulating in this ordinance are golf carts and worksite utility vehicles, which by definition includes UTVs. Those are the two categories. So when we say golf cart, we mean golf cart, and when we say worksite utility vehicle, we mean worksite utility vehicle and utility terrain vehicle.
Okay. What we look at as a simple definition of a golf cart is that one that you use on the golf course, basically goes forward and backwards, has no headlights, no tail lights, no blinkers, anything like that. And a lot of the carts that we'd be discussing are exactly that type of a cart. We also have golf carts that have full lighting systems, headlights, blinkers, brake lights, et cetera, and would pass for a vehicle being fully equipped as some of the all-terrain vehicles are. So in your restrictions, it doesn't, let's see, let's go down here to, anyway, when you refer to something that can drive after dark, you're referring to the utility vehicles. because they have the full lighting system, or they should have the full lighting system in order to drive after dark. But there are golf carts that have that same full lighting system. Are they considered something that could drive after dark?
Not under the definition, because golf carts are defined as vehicles that weigh less than, hold on here, I have that, the chief had the definition. Golf cart means a motor vehicle that is not less than 3 wheels in contact with the ground, an unladen weight of not more than 1,800 pounds, and is designed to be and is operated at no more than 25 miles per hour, and is designed to carry not more than 4 persons, including the driver.
Okay, so if a person has I'm thinking of a golf cart that I know somebody has, that golf cart probably weighs double what the normal golf cart weighs, but it has all of the full lighting system, but it's not an all-terrain vehicle. It's a golf cart, but it's big, it's fancy, and is fully equipped. Is that going to be thrown into the other category?
Here's the definition of a worksite utility vehicle. I'm gonna read that to you, and then I'll try to answer that. A worksite utility vehicle means any motor vehicle which is not less than 48 inches in width, has an unladen weight, including fuel and fluids, of more than 800 pounds, and is equipped with 4 or more non-highway tires, a steering wheel, and bench or bucket type seating, allowing at least 2 people to sit side by side, and may be equipped with a bed or cargo box for hauling materials. Well, worksite utility vehicle does not include a micro utility truck. So if somebody has a golf cart that fits that definition, then they can register it as a worksite utility vehicle.
Okay, that's what they'd have to do if they have one of those, I call it a mega golf cart, you know.
Well, and the issue there is it designed, and is there some proof that can be shown that it's designed to be operated at a speed greater than 25 miles an hour?
Okay, that would be a key factor.
Yes, because that's the key factor in us limiting golf carts to operating basically sunrise to sunset, and on streets with speed limits no greater than 25 miles.
Okay. I think I understand. That's all I can think of now, John.
Anybody else? Jim?
I know I had given this quite a bit of thought and conversation too, but honestly, I think this falls in line with what I was envisioning and makes it somewhat a little less complicated to enforce, other than you pointed out a good point there, and I like the description based on what the law allows. I thought that made sense to me, so I honestly don't think I have any other issues on this to discuss.
I'll say, go ahead, Jim.
I was just no, go ahead. I was gonna make a motion if there was no more discussion.
Just in looking at this, after I've thought about it over the last few weeks since we discussed this last, some concerns that I have, I guess. I have a lot of concern of driving at night with these on the roads. I just think as our city grows, and we're opening this up to arterials and side streets. And though that may seem harmless, I think when you think about this is going to be mixed with regular traffic that is flowing on the streets as well, and some of the things that are in our city and coming to our city. Some gaming facilities we have, I mean, just think about the traffic rush coming out of the arena at once with a lot of folks that are been drinking, in addition to what's coming out of two, what's going to be very large casino facilities. I'm not really worried about the people driving these as much as I am other people on the road with them. And then mix that with nighttime. I do have some concerns. I think I'm less concerned with small vehicles as this started out, if you remember many months back, when the gentleman came in and made the request of us to consider this, which is a good idea, I think, for us to consider, but it was to get from the neighborhood to the park. And I think that's a reasonable request, to get folks to the park, because we're trying to build our park system to bring more people into it. We're trying to build paths coming in, jogging paths, hiking and biking. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, I think it's a great request, but I think maybe I just have some safety concerns. And again, it's not that I'm worried about the folks on these, but how careful can you be? It's the other folks out there that when you mix them together is when problems, disasters happen. So the nighttime thing is very concerning to me. I just want to, I guess, encourage some conversation about this just to make sure we get to where we land. I don't have one of these, but I know many of you do. Many people in the community do. And what we thought was going to be a pretty easy task, we see now even a definition of one of them is not that easy. So I think just let's make sure we land in a good spot, and not that we can't adjust it later, but the thing I think you want to remember is if we pass this as least restrictive, tightening it up is harder. If you pass it as very restrictive and then see that, hey, this is working fine, let's loosen it up a little bit, that's much easier. So I've got some lights lit up, so George.
Yeah, for me, it's about safety of our citizens. As I said before, we have to look at the safety. Anything that could cause harm in any of the citizens, and that's my concern. If it happens one time, that's a concern of mine. And what's going to happen with the city? What's going to happen to the thing moving forward? Are we going to get a lot of complaints? In lieu of many businesses coming to Park City, you're going to throw an ATV or a golf cart in the mix with the increased traffic congestion. That's going to be, for me, a thing in itself. So I would agree with the mayor and some of the aspects for me about the safety and driving at night. So I'll be voting no against this.
Charles.
Okay, if the definition from the first page would separate golf carts from the ATVs and workplace vehicles, that would eliminate any of the golf carts then from driving at night on the streets. Is that really what you're, and if, as it's written, the only thing it could drive at night would be what would we call them? A worksite utility vehicle or all-terrain vehicle, something like that. Are you wanting to eliminate all of them at night or just the golf cart style golf carts?
Well, I guess let's just back up. Like, when this started, the request was, I like to take my kids to the park. And I think that's very reasonable. Like, that's really what we want, is people loading up, going to the park. The park closes at what, 10 o'clock? But you think about that, that's in the summertime, it's dark at 9:30. So if that's, I'm not saying I want you to ban any, I'm just saying we need to have a really good discussion and make sure that what we do makes really good sense. Wherever we land on it, I'm fine. I don't even get a vote in it, honestly. But I just want us to have a very good conversation and make sure that where we land makes a lot of sense in what we're doing. And remember how this started. The request was, I want to go to the park. Well,
Yeah.
the park closes at 10, so.
Most of the parks have to be accessible by a major thoroughfare with a speed limit over 25 miles an hour. So most of the, just for example, where you live, if you wanted to drive down to Hap McLean, you couldn't do it. and so you'd have to take your car. That'd be the answer to that, And I don't think you'd want to be out on one of those faster roads at night with even if you had lights, so.
And again, I don't have one, I haven't driven one, so I don't even know what the capabilities are, but I do, I mean, as traffic becomes congested up where Gillies is and stuff, I just, and again, like I said, I haven't driven one, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
Linda, she has one, she's driven one, she may be your expert
Well,
to ask
hopefully,
about.
we won't have any of these I don't think we do now have any of them being driven out around the casinos or down the major thoroughfares. And with this rule, it would definitely eliminate driving them on major thoroughfares.
Golf carts, right.
Pardon?
Golf carts only.
Golf carts only, correct, yeah. So we'd have to decide, do you want the same rule for all of those vehicles or just the golf carts?
I'm confused on which rule you're talking about, the 25 mile an hour or the lights?
Driving at night would be the major one with lights.
Just nothing?
Right now, the golf carts, as you know, your standard golf cart would not be allowed to drive anywhere, side streets, anywhere with after dark.
Right.
Okay, and
Where I was getting confused, and I was trying to help clarify, is just, okay, if we're coming from the north side of town, the speed limit's in excess of 25 mile an hour anyway, so you couldn't drive a golf cart to the
You're
park
gonna
no
drive
matter
a
what.
car.
But you could drive a UTV, and you're saying you're
Yeah.
gonna drive a car. No, you could drive a UTV or
that's
a
the way
worksite
the way
utility.
this is written now. Understanding the definitions of what a golf cart is, and we may need to make that language a little bit easier to understand, because right now it really throws them all into one category on C, and that's not the intent. I don't believe. But yeah, you'd be looking at
The definition C does not throw them all into the same category. It's for the purpose of kind of giving a title to this ordinance. We're calling, I guess I could strike that and just insert the actual terms golf cart and worksite utility vehicle. And then I do want to make a correction. It's a UTV, not an ATV. We do not allow ATVs. That will not be allowed with this ordinance. And that should read utility task vehicle. I typed the wrong word in there. That's what a UTV is. It's basically the same as a work utility vehicle. So I could do that, Charles, if that makes things better and not as confusing. That's not a problem. So, for example, 14.237 right now, as it reads, it would say operation of golf carts, work utility vehicles, and utility task vehicles, period, definitions. And then we'll strike the special purpose and just not talk about those.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's still discrete definitions, and the way this is drawn up, they have to be, unless you want to just make the same rule for all, which has kind of been talked about. I can do that too. This is all up to you. But right now, there's a discrete, there's a difference between a golf cart and a worksite utility vehicle, and to tell you the truth, if you want to try to distinguish between monster golf carts and tricked out golf carts, I don't know how to do that. And that's not going to work very well for the police department. You know, we kind of all know what a golf cart looks like, and we kind of all know what a work utility vehicle looks like, and I think that's probably what we're going to do.
That's the best definition, yeah.
And so if you want to put lights on your golf cart, great, but right now,
It's a golf cart, so
It's still a golf cart,
lipstick on it if you want, it's still a golf cart. Okay.
because the speed that a regular golf cart could attain is always under 25 miles an hour. It's usually more like 19 to 20.
I agree, but I do believe that, you know, Terry was talking about souped up ones that could probably go 35 or 40.
There are some motorized ones that can,
But,
yes.
but again, I don't know how to address that in an enforcement ordinance that the police department had the ability to enforce.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to rely kind of on our common sense, and the registration. When somebody comes in, that's the good news here. I think that's the solution. If somebody comes in with a tricked out golf cart and wants to register that as a work utility vehicle, again, if they can prove that it goes faster than 25 miles an hour, then maybe we can accommodate that. And I think we can do that under this ordinance as it's written right now.
With your current definitions or the rest of the ordinance?
With the current definition, if somebody wants to come in and say, I've got a work utility vehicle, it's insured, I've got lights on it, a golf cart, which they want to register as a work utility vehicle and get a decal for a work utility vehicle, then, again, it's a little bit problematic, if that's important to people in the community, and they can, I guess they go out and test drive with somebody and show that it goes 30 miles an hour, right?
Chief, you're gonna have to ride with them.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't ride with them, and I wouldn't take my family on a 30-mile-an-hour golf cart on public streets that are 40 miles an hour, but, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Linda?
I think the purpose, I just want to make sure the reason you have special purpose vehicle in here to describe them all collectively is so the registration section, you're not listing golf carts and UTVs and worksite utilities everywhere. We're just using that as a common denominator in the whole document.
That would be easier to use that term, but again, if it's bothersome, I can, every place that shows up, I could insert the other two.
Right.
Other three, sorry.
And then also, can we add the definitions, like those points you pointed out from the Kansas statutes of what defines a golf cart inside of here and what defines a UTV? Just
Sure.
the primary reasons it's defined as a golf cart and as a UTV.
Sure, that's a really good idea.
It feels like you have something to back it up when they say this is a golf cart, but it identifies as a UTV. We could say, well, it doesn't meet the criteria.
And I already have a correction to UTV, so I'm
Right.
gonna be making a change and probably hold off for a week on publication, so no problem doing that.
Okay, and Mayor, my husband offers you can come drive ours if you would like to.
Sweet.
He was tempted to bring it up to the meeting. I'm not kidding. I had to hold him back. He's very passionate about this and the good drivers and, you know, getting the experience of not just using the parade and the 4th of July thing. So this is something that we both support because it is something that we have and we use them. So, yeah, I think that was all I had then.
Okay. Randy?
Okay, so I had a lot to say last time, and I've thought about a lot what I said. And when I was talking about this, I was using the reference as to getting to the park, as far as, you know, like the request was. So when I thought about this, it was more from Hillside to Quick Trip, 69th to just past Village Estates. That's the perimeter I was looking at when we were talking about Park City. I wasn't thinking about Bear Hill, Saddlebrook, Briarbrook, all these other locations, Wyndham. So the more you think about it, driving at night, that is bothersome because I know some of these vehicles are, you know, maybe safer than a motorcycle, but driving out on Broadway, one of these in the middle of the night, that's concerning. So I do have issues with some of the night driving. Daytime, maybe that's totally fine, but I think when it gets to nighttime, there needs to be some restrictions on it. And so that's kind of where I fall. I'm having issues now with the nighttime driving, specifically when we talk about coming up from Briarbrook or Saddlebrook, coming into Park City area, or even Bear Hill, you know, coming past the casino area. That does bother me.
Thank you, Brandy. Terry?
Yeah, I'm in the same camp with driving at night, for sure. I mean, I'm on the fence about the whole thing anyway, but I'm definitely a no if we leave driving at night in.
Charlie.
Yeah, sorry, I had some family commitments last meeting, so I wasn't here. I'm just trying to make sure I'm thinking right, Doug. So as far as a golf cart goes, I live in Saddlebrook. I would basically be confined to Saddlebrook alone, correct? And Bear Hill? I couldn't drive my kids to the new pool.
I think that's correct. The way
Unless
it's written, because you can't get there on streets that are 25 miles an hour or less in speed limits.
Okay. And then if somebody lives east of Hydraulic and they want to drive across Hydraulic to get to Hap McLean Park, that's technically against the ordinance.
You can cross a street with a higher speed limit.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's set out in here. Yeah, crossing the
Okay.
street's okay, driving on it's not with those speed limit limitations.
Unless you get a utility vehicle or a work site vehicle. Then you can drive it over 25.
Correct.
Correct.
Up to 55. Now, there was a lot of discussion about that. I didn't try to carve anything out, so that's also on the table if you want to do something. But right now, the way this was written, work site utility vehicle and a UTV can be driven in the city, sunrise to sunset, anywhere.
Okay.
After sunset to next sunrise, anywhere, if it's got lights as required under state law for motorcycles.
Thank you. And then Linda, since you do have them, is there, I'm just trying to understand, I'm trying to think to myself, like at night, what would be, if the parks are closed, like the mayor said, or what would be a reason to drive one at night, I guess is a question I have.
I know for us in particular, we will go out county roads just for a day drive, night drive, whatever, go visit friends. But I also envision like movies in the park, like they start when it's relatively almost dark. So what happens when you're somewhere, like for us, we go to our parents or something and nighttime comes, we're like, oh, shoot, we got to walk home. Like, not very good planning. So, but that's because we have UTVs and not golf carts, and I feel like they're much safer. I won't get on a motorcycle anymore, but I will get in the UTV to go somewhere. We have seatbelts, we have helmets for our kids, we have lights, and a roll cage, a custom roll cage to make it even safer. So that's my 2 cents on that, yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I keep being quiet just because I want everybody to weigh in on it. So, yeah, I said one last time, Charlie, I have one too. Mine's got LED lights and blinkers and taillights, and I'm in my 50s now, so I quit riding ATVs and scaled back to something that had a roll cage so I could be a little safer. Take my kids to the park if it became legal, that kind of thing. So, I'm not saying they're as safe as car, they're not. But in the world of off-road vehicles, they're about as safe as you can get. That's the UTV aspect of it. I can't comment on the golf cart. Everybody's right, whether you want lights or not. There's arguments for it and against it, and they're all good ones. I think back, I use mine in a farm aspect when I haul it away from town to places where it is legal. And, I've driven mine at 1 o'clock in the morning because that's when I got to quit for the day. And, yeah, it's a different experience at night, but they do have good headlights. I can't say that for all of them because there's different makes and models. If it made everybody, so I don't feel real strong about the lights, the headlights and driving it. I'm sorry, I feel strongly that they should have lights. I don't feel strongly whether you drive it after dark or not. Most of us would do it safely, but things do happen, and I mix that with not being a proponent of government that should tell you too many things of what you can and can't do in your life. Establish some guidelines and let people operate safely within them. If it made everybody feel better about this, we can strike the driving after dark from all of them. think that's an easy enough thing for people to plan around and see how this works for a year. But I don't have a lot to really add. I don't want to coerce anybody. You know, I saw a survey asking us to do this and personal requests. So, but we also have personal requests talking about how unsafe it was. So I go back to the survey and say, well, I need to figure this out. So that's just where I continue to be. But I rambled a little bit there, but that I thought at least address my experience with the driving after dark aspect and whether or not we need to strike that.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, one other solution, since we are talking about some significant changes in the definitions, I can bring this back at next meeting. Instead of, there seems to still be some uncertainty, and we can sure bring it back at the next meeting with the changes in the definitional section, and maybe with some more time to think about it. As I look at it now, and I made a comment about souped up golf carts and put it on the police department to be able to distinguish those. And the way I see I've written it, and the promise I made to get rid of special purpose, I really might want to distinguish what kind of decals we're going to issue for the two different categories of vehicles, golf carts versus worksite utility vehicles and UTVs. So that's another solution, although if you're happy with adopting it, knowing that I'm making the changes that you've suggested, I'm willing to do that also.
Troy.
I am a little, I mean, I'm good waiting. I've been talking to quite a few people in the neighborhood and around the city, and really it's about 50-50. So I'm just kind of, I don't mind waiting a little bit more, but that's up to you guys. That's all I got.
Linda.
I will not be at the next meeting. I have a work function I have to attend, so if it moves to that one, I would request it move to the next one instead, just selfishly, so I can attend it. But can you summarize the changes you're gonna make other than the just, if we were to go with it right now, what would you be changing? The special purpose vehicle, adding definitions of each golf cart, UTV?
Right now, I would expand 14-237, and I would just start out by saying golf cart shall mean, and set out the meaning from the standard traffic ordinance. B would be worksite utility vehicle shall mean, and then set out the words from the standard traffic ordinance. And then a UTV is the same as a worksite utility vehicle. I think I would continue that, since that is a category. And then special purpose vehicle means a golf cart, worksite utility vehicle, or an utility train, or a utility task vehicle. Again, I could strike that, and we'll just talk about the three categories when that word appears, instead of using that as a term. Right now, those are the only changes that you've talked about that I said I'd make, but anything else too?
Daylight hours.
It sounds like, yeah, nighttime driving is the other issue. And that's really why I'm asking, because it sounds like it's an issue between everybody up here, whether we would want the nighttime driving or take away the nighttime driving for all of them.
That's something I can do, but again,
Okay.
At this point, with the changes that we're making, I'd really rather bring it back, just to have everybody think about it again, just because I don't want this to be something that I.
Fair enough.
You know, I really cut this down a lot from the last one, to make it kind of easier for the city and easier for the police department. But it doesn't mean like it's gotta be that way, and so you pointed out a couple of things that I think I surely could have made a little bit clearer, and I'd like to do that. So right now, before we go though, I would like to know if you want to change it to no nighttime driving.
So let me do this just as a polling, like, who is only in favor of daytime only for this?
Daytime only?
Daytime only.
Or the utility vehicles.
Everything.
Any
would
of
be
Across the
day-
board.
Everything's
Oh,
daytime
oh,
only.
Daytime only for everything.
Yeah,
Just a raise of your hands if you want daytime only.
right here.
Just us, for the old fogies.
Okay, so everybody else is good with anytime, right?
As it's written now, yes.
Everybody?
Yes, correct. I am good with that.
Okay, so leave it as it is now.
So in 2 meetings, I'll make these changes, and bring it back, and then we can have a final discussion about things.
Sounds like,
Can we approve it
Okay.
with changes?
yeah.
No, I mean,
Terry?
I mean, I too, like Linda, I am gonna be out of town next meeting as well, so.
Who's gonna be here?
I'll be here.
I'll be here. Thank God.
So,
So it'll be the next meeting anyway. Okay.
okay.
Charlie?
Do we need a motion then to table it?
No. Yes? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table it and bring it back in 2 meetings with the suggested changes.
Randy?
I'll second, but I do have a comment. So I know I said that I was concerned about the nighttime, but Linda, you brought up a good point about like movies in the park, so in the summertime. So I mean, I mean, I have a hard time saying, no, don't
Yeah,
drive to movies in the
it's-
park. So
yeah.
it's little things like that where I'm not completely against that, so.
Charlie? did you
Yeah, I
still-
just was gonna mention that as well. I'm okay at the nighttime driving just for the fact, I think, Jim, you made a good fact that we have registration set up. They have to register. We have some guidelines set in place, but I mean, there's accidents that happen at night in regular cars, but we can't just eliminate cars driving at night. So we hope that everybody's safe, and I think it will be a positive thing for our community. So I'm okay with the nighttime driving, as long as we have these registration and regulations in place.
Even Linda?
Well, we'll add that in the ordinance.
Linda, you're next.
I just want to put it out there, even though I will be gone for the next meeting, my husband would still gladly bring one up prior to the meeting if anybody wants to look it over and know what you're allowing. So just going to throw that out there.
Thank you. Troy?
I think if it's spelled out just fine, I don't see any issues with how it's written now. The only thing I ever get confused about is what's the difference between an ATV and a UTV and a side-by-side and all of that. But Terry kind of told me the difference, a four-wheeler and a three-wheeler versus a side-by-side, they're different, so. Okay.
Okay. Charlie, motion to table and bring it back in 2 meetings, the second meeting. And it was seconded by Brandy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Don't get out.
Next item under new business, discuss and consider economic incentive for Lancaster Square.
Yes, sir. Lancaster Square LLC has made application for the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a 50-unit senior residential facility located on Stewart Drive in Park Center. It is the same thing that Sarah Steele with Gilmore and Bell teed up a couple weeks ago as far as the Golden Circle or Gillies. This is for a sales tax exemption only throughout the construction process. This is not an IRB where property tax abatement, that's being considered. This is only for sales tax only. If there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions of Sean? Brandy?
I don't have any, so I move to approve Resolution 1249-2025.
Jim?
I second that.
Okay, motion by Brandy, seconded by Jim to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Item 2, presentation by Wilson and Company of Stormwater Phase 1.
Good evening,
projects.
Mayor and Council. The previously approved stormwater drainage master plan identified needed improvements in our Channel 4 within the city. The evaluation included recommendations for the channels, including crossing structures, channel grading, addition of drop structures, but also being mindful of our long-term maintenance requirements. Park City entered into a contract with Wilson and Company for Phase 1 improvements. The general scope of work includes channel grading and structure replacements, starting at 61st Street North near City Hall, moving along the back lots of Denver through to Hydraulic, continuing along the back lots of Denver again until reaching Evanston near the floodway over by Applebee's. Concrete structures will be placed within the channel to slow the stream velocity, and existing culverts will be removed and replaced at Randall Drive, Hydraulic Avenue, East Parkview, West Parkview, and Evanston Drive. And Jeff Holste with Wilson and Company is here to present a brief overview of the project scope and timeline.
Thank you, Gina. Mayor, council members. The map that you have, as Gina mentioned, kind of is a layout of the project corridor. What you see with the blue lines are the drainage basins. This is the drainage map as part of the plan documents, and so this is the area that contributes directly to the channel. The large blue circles are the locations of the cross streets and where the box culverts will be placed. And in your packet, I kind of just put together a summary of some of the improvements that are included with this channel project. So this channel project, as Gina mentioned, starts here at the ditch for City Hall. And the City Hall ditch is actually included in part of the project. We are looking at some grading adjustment there and being able to adjust the profile of that ditch to get it to drain better. And then including a channel valley gutter down the center of that to help keep that area well drained and allow it to be mowed without rutting and getting stuck. And so as part of the project, then we'll work downstream as well and clear out the culverts between the frontage road and 61st, and then further downstream to allow those to drain freely. And so once that maintenance takes place and is able to be kept up on in the future, then that sediment can kind of keep moving. So that'll help just with the long-term maintenance as well. So as was mentioned, this does include 6 roadway crossings, and so there's quite a bit of box culvert that's included with this project. A little over 660 linear feet of box culvert for those 6 roadway crossings, and one of the longest segments is an area from the frontage road of Hydraulic to the downstream area west of Hydraulic, and so there's a real tight corridor there. So we actually extended the box culvert downstream, and that segment alone is about 280 feet of box culvert. That does include a bend in the box culvert as well, so it helps on a couple of levels to be able to route the channel through there, or route the flow through there without having the same impacts on adjacent property as we've had before. There's a lot of erosion in there and just a long-term maintenance struggle with that tight of a corridor. Also, for the box culverts, these are upsizing from a lot of smaller pipe systems at the roadway crossings. And so the boxes range from a 7x3 box at the upstream end to dual 8x4s at the downstream end. And so we have kind of a variety of box sizes based on the crossing location, the vertical clearance that we can allow, and then also the width of the channel. A few areas, there's some existing concrete channels that we're tying to, and so that kind of limits the type of structure that we can put in place. The 10 concrete drop structures are sloping drops along the channel, and these are energy dissipators, and so this helps us flatten the slope of the channel to reduce velocity and reduce erosion potential, and then dissipate energy with a drop of below 3 feet for all of these structures. And so that allows the structure to drop, or the flow to drop, and then continue downstream. As part of the hydraulic area, one of the challenges we came across was the existing sanitary sewer system. And so we had some utility conflicts that we needed to work around. we were able to identify a place in that hydraulic area where we could actually reroute the sanitary and lower it because there was some vertical available in the sanitary system. So part of with a box culvert approach is a challenge of trying to be able to have enough cover or clearance for the box to be able to fit underneath the roadway. So when we added box culverts, what we ended up doing in that area was adjusting the sanitary sewer. So we included some sanitary sewer relocation as part of that area. With the construction of the box, we also have that sewer adjacent to and crossing underneath the box. So anywhere that we cross underneath the box structure, we're showing replacement of the sanitary sewer for a short segment with a new pipe. And then areas where we cross the channel or the existing sanitary sewer crosses the channel and is shallow, we're showing that as encasement of a new sanitary pipe across the channel. So not a full system replacement, but in the areas where it's below the channel invert, we're replacing that so that if it's an old clay tile type pipe, it's a new PVC type pipe. And then it'll have a concrete encasement to protect it. In some of the areas, there's some tight bends, especially east of Northeast Parkview. And so those areas there, and at the very downstream end, especially between Evanston and Northwest Parkview, those curves have an area of bank armoring with basketed gabions. And so those are baskets, steel baskets that have rocks in them so that you're not dealing with rubble from rocks in the channel, but they're contained more and have kind of more of a flush surface. And so it provides that armoring for the channel to protect against erosion, but doesn't have the loose rock type of components for impacting maintenance. So we limited that to only the areas where there's tight curves in the channel. And so this is to protect for long-term stabilization. Overall, along this channel corridor, as you probably know, there's a lot of trees, a lot of maintenance needs along the corridor. Along the channel, there's at least 70 large trees that would come out through this area. And then in the definition of large tree as we've put it together is anything that's 12 inches or larger. And so there's quite a few large trees. And then anything that would be in the back areas from a smaller tree maintenance perspective, that would be cleared out as well so that between the fences and the drainage way so that there would be a unrestricted flow and the channel would be able to be maintained and mowed in the future as well. With that, we also looked at channel kind of fencing. And so at each of the crossings, we have fences with gates and we have maintenance access for UTV type of maintenance to be able to get down into the channel to spray and then to get equipment in there to mow as well. And so we have small gate systems and ramps to be able to help get access to the channel corridor for staff to maintain it in the future. There are some areas along the channel where there weren't fences or where there were fences that we were impacting. And so we have also included areas where we've impacted fences as replacing those areas and adding new fence. I mentioned the improvements along the ditch to help improve that flow. And so that kind of summarizes the different components of the channel project. For a comparison or a little bit of a reference point, most of the channel corridor is designed with about a 10-foot bottom width to the channel, and it's a trapezoidal channel, so it has sloping side slopes, and those range from 1.5 to 1, a lot of times 2 to 1, and in some areas we can get those a little bit flatter, but we are working through a pretty tight corridor, and so we have a lot of variety in the channel back there that's going to transition as it works through the corridor. So the design plans are complete for the project, and we're working on final components for the bid package. And so I do anticipate that could be advertised this week, and so we'll be able to move forward with that. We anticipate a bid opening in May to allow contractors plenty of time to price and work through the project planning. And then we've set a construction date with an early start date of October 1st. And so that's a couple of reasons for that. The general just construction industry right now and feedback from contractors in different project type of discussions are that there's quite a bit of work out there right now. And so we've tried to position this project to where we can get the best and most favorable bids for the city as possible. So one part of that is trying to allow flexibility for contractors to construct this project in kind of a time window that they can work it into their planning. And then also, with winter construction for a channel corridor, there's a lot less risk that the contractor has for water control. Even last weekend, with 1.5 inches of rain, they get a lot of flow down the channel. If the contractor's actively working in there, whether it's tree clearing or they have something excavated, they have to manage that flow and they have to work around that. So this type of work can easily be done in the winter. It opens up a lot of opportunity, and it also allows less vegetation to have to be worried about and dealt with just because trees don't have their foliage. So there's some opportunities there. The other part of that is from a precasting standpoint, we've looked at a lot of these box culverts being able to be precast and feel like there's a good opportunity to save some costs there by being able to plan ahead and provide these as a precast product. There is a timeline to that. And so that allows the precasting to produce the product and be able to be ready for a fall construction. We do expect the construction window to be about 4 to 6 months. And so if that starts in October, we would allow some flexibility and expect that to be complete before we start to see spring rains. So that also correlates well with revegetation of a channel for this type of a project and being able to establish grass. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your
Have a good
presentation. Okay, Troy.
I move to receive and file the presentation by Wilson and Company.
Jim?
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion by Troy, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. On to item 3, discuss and consider approving a resolution determining the advisability of sanitary sewer main improvements for the North Park Industrial.
Yes, sir. Petitions for water and sanitary sewer improvements were filed with the city clerk and approved by the council back in January of this year. All were signed by the owners of record of more than one half of the area liable for the assessment for the proposed improvements, and therefore they're requesting approval without notices and hearing as required by KSA 12-6A01. A bid opening was conducted on March 27th with 2 bids, both of which exceeded the engineer's estimate for sanitary sewer, prompting the developer to repetition and amend the cost of the work to be completed, and then we went ahead and rebid the project. The new updated proposal is the original petition for sanitary sewer was $90,000. The amended petition is for $222,159.99. Everything else as far as the improvements, the improvement districts, the method of assessment, and the apportionment of the cost between the improvement district and the city remain the same, with the improvement district paying 100% and the city paying 0%. And I stand for any questions you have.
Charlie?
No questions. I move to accept the amended petition and approve resolution 1250-2025.
George Glover?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any further discussions on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. That was motioned by Charlie, seconded by George. Item 4, discuss and consider approving a resolution determining the advisability of water distribution system improvements for North Park Industrial.
This is the exact same. This is for the water side of the house. When we conducted the bid opening on March 27th of the 2 companies, one of them did not exceed the engineer's estimate, but the amount of the petition did not adequately capture city fees, financing fees, temporary bond fees, all that. So at the same time that they chose to repetition for the sanitary sewer, they decided it would be wise to go ahead and repetition for the water side of the house to make certain there's adequate funds in there. The original petition amount was $25,000, and now that's been amended up to $40,077.73. Again, the improvement district, the method of assessment, and the apportionment between the city and the developer remain the same.
Thank you, Charlie.
I move to accept the amended petition and approve resolution 1251-2025.
Jim Schroeder?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, It was motion by Charlie, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Item 5, discuss and consider approval of a bid from Wildcat Construction for water and sanitary sewer improvements for North Park Industrial Addition.
Yes, sir. With the amended petition, a new bid opening was conducted on April 16th, again with the two companies submitting the bids. Wildcat Construction submitted the lowest combined bid of $175,556, which was slightly higher than the engineer's estimate of $173,495, but within the 3% currently allowed by council policy. And I have it broken down into the individual amount for sanitary sewer as well as water for the total. And attached is a copy of the bid tabulation, and they have not provided the contract at this time, but we will work with them to get that to the mayor for signature if approved.
Thank you. Charlie?
I'll move to approve the bid tabulation, authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Wildcat Construction, an amount not to exceed $175,556 to be paid out of Capital Projects Fund.
Thank you, Charlie. Jim?
I will second that also.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, motion by Charlie, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Item 6, discuss and consider approving a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, for construction of the new senior center.
In November 2024, council approved a contract with McCown Gordon to act as the construction manager at risk, CMAR, for construction of the new senior center. Under a CMAR, the construction manager acts as a consultant to the city during the design and construction phase and is responsible for overseeing the project and ensuring it's completed within a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP. Attached is a guaranteed maximum price cost summary, which includes construction of the facility, as well as owner allowances and an owner contingency. Tonight, we have on hand Alan Youngers with McCown Gordon, who will be able to go through the full-blown package if there are any questions that was provided in there, just as well as highlighting the owner's allowances and the owner's contingency that are included in the GMP price.
Good evening. My name is Alan with McCown Gordon Construction. Great summary there, Sean. Thank you. I've been working alongside with Sheldon Architecture for several months now, and they've developed a really high functional and good-looking facility. They developed the plans and specifications for that. We took those plans and specifications and bid that out to the trade partner network, and happy to say that we had an outstanding turnout of bids. We had over 115 bids received for this project, so that was great for the city. And we've brought those costs in to you so that, and included that in the guaranteed maximum price. So that was $5,113,500, and that included a $115,000 owner contingency, as well as the owner allowances, which are listed in your packet. So that included the monument sign, interior and exterior signage, the building perimeter lighting, subgrade moisture conditioning, and materials testing. And that's all included in that GMP amount. Now, there is one option that we had as an alternate. So we heard you last time when we came before you that we wanted to see the paving and wanted to see if it was asphalt or concrete. We have included concrete in this estimate with this GMP right now, and the deduct to utilize asphalt is $79,300. So that's an option for you tonight. Just keep in mind with that, there is some continued maintenance with asphalt, as well as we would have to adjust our schedule slightly longer to account for the final layer of paving that we'd have to do at the end of the project. So there's a wealth of information in this packet, but I'd like to point your attention to the screen. That area that has the red brackets around it, that is the construction GMP amount. So there's other costs included with any project, furnishings that would be direct to the city and direct purchase by the city. So what I'm asking for you, or from you tonight, is a guaranteed price for that construction amount only that is listed there. Pending approval tonight, it would be a groundbreaking ceremony on May 3rd, and then completion of the project in February 2026. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Jim?
On the guaranteed maximum price, we're going to need, which I liked the idea of, we're going to have to make sure we're within all of the budgetary items and not go over those unless we dip into the contingency. How confident do we feel that we've got the right items addressed in each of the line items? You know, there's probably some individual line items within construction that I wouldn't be able to tell you if that's enough or not. And I'm trying to gauge the all-encompassing nature of what this budget is. Are we short on anything?
So again, we're guaranteeing as a construction firm just the construction amount. However, we've gone through this several times and had this same spreadsheet in front of the entire design team as well as Sean and everyone to develop these costs. I can't speak for Evergy, for example. We've accounted for some costs for transformer. That's based on historical information that we've had on past projects of this size. But again, that has to be completely designed by their team and then that price provided to you. So what I can guarantee today is what I've highlighted in that amount, but again, the contingency that we've carried will allow for any buffer above or below these amounts. But we have done our best effort to make sure that these are as close to what we think they'll be in the end as possible.
Oh, okay, thanks.
If I can, as far as what's in the red brackets up there, that's what council would be approving as a guaranteed maximum price for McCowan Gordon to build the building. What's above the red at the very top, as far as professional service, architectural fees, survey cost, like he had talked about Evergy, he doesn't get to control those. So those are still flexible, budgeted numbers that we anticipate and think that those should be spot on. But the center part is what we're pretty much locking in tonight, so there is no more surprises. With 100+ bidders, they've already gone out to that. If approved tonight, they will enter into contracts with all their bids tomorrow to lock those people in for the construction of the facility itself. The green part down at the bottom is, again, costs that the city controls. That's for FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. How many chairs are we going to buy? What kind of chairs are we going to buy? We simply don't know that right now, so we will have flexibility within that. But within the GMP price, there again is still flexibility. There is contingency predicated for him to use, and then there's contingency for us to use, the owner's contingency. If we get building it and all of a sudden we find out we don't like the way that wall is, we want it repositioned, that is a change order that we want, then we would utilize our owner's contingency to do that. If he miscalculated or something and something came in a little bit higher than what he thought it was, then it's his contingency that he has to use. But then there are also the allowances up there for the monument sign, for the lighting on the building. Those, again, are things that we can control. And if by chance those come in here lower, then all that comes back to us. If we don't use any of the owner's contingency, even within the guaranteed maximum price, that too comes back to the city. So at the $5.113 amount, there is still what I would consider a good amount of flexibility for both the city as well as the construction side of the house.
Okay. That helps me to
Okay.
feel a little more confident too, that you have a little contingency inside of your budget too. When I saw that ours was only 2% of the total, that seemed a
We're
little
currently
low.
carrying 3% construction contingency in this.
So there's a total 5 in there. Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Does this, I'm having trouble seeing some of this, the print's pretty tiny. Does this building have sprinkler systems inside?
Yes, sir. Fully up to code, sprinkler system throughout.
Thank you. George, I'm sorry, Linda.
And did you say it would be completed February of '26? 10 months? Okay.
Okay. Jim.
Unless there's more questions, I would move to approve the guaranteed maximum price according to the cost summary.
Okay. Terry?
Second.
Okay, motion by Jim, seconded by Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Rick.
Discuss and consider approval of a contract with Lammons Lawn Care for mowing services in the city.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. The city recently solicited bids on mowing services for parks and other city-maintained properties, and attached is a subsequent bid tabulation of the 12 companies who submitted bids. Public Works budgets to hire 2 temporary summer positions to assist with the increased mowing and street repairs that occur during the warmer months. However, the positions have been difficult to keep filled at times, and mowing still requires additional employees to be assigned to keep up with the vegetation growth. During the growing season, it's typical to have 2 to 3 employees assigned daily to mowing, weed eating, and other vegetation control tasks. It is estimated there are 28 weekly mowings in a given year, generally occurring from April to October. However, weather temperatures and precipitation amounts can have an impact on the overall frequency. The lowest bidder was Lammons Lawn Care for an amount of $2,660.70 weekly for the mowing and trimming of a total of 54.3 acres. Using the 28-week estimate, the contract would have an annual cost of $74,499.60, which is roughly $10,000 less than the cost of starting wage and benefits for a single public works technician position. Staff is proposing to keep the temporary summer positions vacant for 2025. This is an unbudgeted item to be paid from the park fund. Staff does recommend approval, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Jim?
Couple questions. So all these contractors would have to go through our normal vetting procedure to make sure they are insured and protect us from liability, I guess. I'd be correct, right?
Correct, yes.
And then the second part of this is, what do we do? Do we sell our old lawn equipment? Do we hang on to our lawn equipment? I mean, will we need it elsewhere? I was trying to think through the other equipment that we already own.
So we would still hold on to some of it. We wouldn't necessarily replace everything as it ages out if we continued on with a contract. We do have some areas that we didn't include in the request for bids, just for simplicity, or areas that we thought we would end up paying more than what it might cost for in-house staff to tackle. One of those would be our Sherwood facility, our Public Works facility, our old shop facility. There is some right-of-way that we mow for a property owner that gives us access to one of our wells off of Broadway. So there are little odds and ends that we would still tackle.
Okay. And then
Very few, though. Subway, the park area in front of Subway, we felt like that we could better maintain that versus trying to come up with a price, since it's literally 2 strips of push mowing and more handwork and weed eating than anything.
Okay, and I think you maybe just kind of answered that, but I was going to ask you what the 54 acres was. Does that, for example, does that include ditches?
It does not, no. The
We'd still
54
be
acres
responsible.
is our
Okay.
parkland. It's any of our established parks. That would be Hat McLean, the Grove Parks, Primrose, Osage. It also includes Aircap Drive. We're responsible for mowing along Aircap Drive from 53rd, not quite to 53rd, but from 61st to a point just north of 53rd on the east side of the road. And
Yeah.
then 61st Street, we mow along and around the interstate, underneath the bridges and close to some of those ramps. And so it would include, those were all proposed for the contract mowing.
Okay, thank you.
Terry?
Yeah, first of all, I think this is a great thing to do. I really do. We had some of these areas contract mowed this past year. Is that correct?
We did. We had started with Hat McLean, and then we expanded that to Grove towards the end of the mowing season.
What, or which contractor did we use with that one?
We used a cut above, I believe,
Okay,
was the name.
just curious.
They came in as one of the higher bidders. They admittedly had said that they didn't think their pricing, we got a great deal last year for what we had mowed. They had adjusted based on this request for bids.
They just didn't want to do it again.
Okay, thank you.
Randy?
So after, based on what you said, I think you've answered my question. So this doesn't include the along Hydraulic and 61st Streets, those, right off those roadways? The side streets up to the sidewalks?
It does not include hydraulic. We would still be mowing those.
And what about 61st Street? Like, let's say from, like, I know you said not in front of Subway, but okay, let's say like from right here in front of City Hall down to Grove Park.
No, we would still do that.
Okay, and so they don't, so how often will those get mowed, and then how often will the sidewalks be pulled of the weeds that are growing in the sidewalks?
So we would be able to focus more attention on those areas, the medians and the corridors, by freeing up. Hat McLean, I think, let me look, it's probably more acres than someone would realize. It's 21.9 acres, and then the Grove Park is, I think, a combined 17.6 acres. And so by freeing up those parks, that allows us the time to take better care of some of those corridors. It even starts freeing up the opportunity. I know Councilman Schwenke has brought up other areas that we might want to look at beautifying. It frees up that opportunity for us to do a better job. We're going to have a more aesthetically pleasing result with what we are maintaining.
And so will this also allow for, so I know in years past, when I've asked, we've mowed and weed eated on a day and then come back the next day or a day after because we didn't have time to blow off the sidewalks. Will this make sure that it's all taken care of within the same day?
They should always be blowing off the sidewalks the same day that they mow, blowing out the streets. If they're not, that's a training issue, and we will tackle that.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie?
I know I've had some constituents said that Park City used to mow ditches in the past and that they've kind of eliminated that due to manpower and things. So is this something that Park City is going to start doing again, you think, with now that they don't have these other mowing projects, they might mow ditches?
So
I know
we-
I'm going to be asked about it, so.
Right, we are currently mowing and maintaining those Channel 4 and Channel 6 ditches, the ones that run through the Horseshoe and to the south of 61st. So I know a few years back, it was established the city would maintain those. Anything else, it's an ordinance that the property owner maintains the right-of-way. Now, it's always up to council's direction, but at this time, we would not take on maintaining right-of-way for a property owner.
Okay. And is the part-time workers, is that budgeted for 20?
It was budgeted
It
for
was budgeted,
25.
but we're going to leave it vacant. So
Yes.
is this something you think we're going to move forward, or you'd like to move forward doing year to year, or just see how it goes this year? Is that kind of your thought?
I think I would like to move forward utilizing it every year. I would like to see how this year goes before making that commitment, but I am proposing to put it in the 26 budget prior to knowing how this mowing season will turn out.
Thank you.
Charles?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of hiring a contractor like this. I think it's a wise idea, and it actually saves money, so that part is good. The only part I still don't like is the fact that the ordinance that we have that makes the road ditches up to the edge of the road the landowner's responsibility. We still have a lot of places where absentee owners, senior owners that don't even mow the other ones. I think that works, but we're going to have to get on those people, and when they don't mow them, we're going to have to mow them. If those weeds aren't mowed, it doesn't, people that drive in and see those don't say, oh, the landowner didn't mow his weeds. They say, no, Park City didn't mow their weeds. So it's very important that we stay on top of those people to keep the opinion of the people driving through the city that we are a sharp and well-mowed city, well-trimmed, That's it.
Okay. Sorry, I have Jim made a motion. Did somebody second that? Did you make a motion?
No, that was the previous one, I thought. I would,
Okay, I thought you were gonna make a motion. You just talked. Would you please make a motion?
questions first.
No action. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, I'd make the motion that we consider approval of the contract, let's see here, move to approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Lammons Lawn Care for mowing service paid from the park fund.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Brandy?
Second.
Okay, motion by Jim, seconded by Brandy. And Terry, did you have something to say? I have your light lit up.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Motion by Jim, seconded by Brandy to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Next, item 8, discuss and consider agreement with Trans Systems Engineering for bridge inspections.
Trans Systems Engineering completed our last biennial bridge inspections in 2023. Attached is their updated scope of services, where they will perform the National Bridge Inventory Field Inspection and Evaluation Services for 7 bridges located within Park City. KDOT does require field inspection and evaluation to be completed and submitted by May of 2025. The total cost for services is $4,400. This is a budgeted item to be paid from the Special Streets and Highway Fund. Staff does recommend approval, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Gina. Terry?
No questions. I move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign and execute a contract with Trans Systems Engineering for bridge inspections in the amount of $4,400.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second.
Okay, seeing no further comment, it was motioned by Terry, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, consider a charter ordinance number C as in Charlie 43-2025 exempting the city from provisions of KSA 14-440 related to restrictions against entering into a construction contract for an amount that exceeds an engineering estimate of the cost of such construction. That was pretty self-explanatory. Go ahead, Doug. That's not even an attorney lingo.
Mayor and council, at present, KSA 14-440 applies to all cities of the second class. And it requires that before entering a contract for public improvements, that the city obtains an engineering estimate of the likely cost of that construction project. And it likewise restricts the city from entering into a contract for the construction if the cost of that contract exceeds the engineer's estimate. What this charter ordinance does is exempts the city from that provision. We're allowed to do that because this statute only applies to second-class cities. It's not uniformly applicable to all cities in Kansas. So we have the home rule authority to change that. It's called the charter ordinance. Requires a vote of all the members of the governing body and at least 6 votes. It also does not go into effect for a period of 60 days. And in those 60 days, if a petition is submitted to the city, signed by a sufficient number of electors in Park City, then the matter would go to a vote in order to become effective. If there is no such petition filed within that 60-day period, then on the 61st day, the ordinance becomes effective. What this does is it permits, but does not require, the city to award a contract when the bid or the proposal for the contract exceeds the engineer's estimate. As it exists today with this statute in place, we couldn't do that. But it doesn't require that. It's just another tool in the toolbox for the governing body. If that's expedient, and if the governing body believes, as it says in the charter ordinance, when there have been bids and more than one bid has been solicited, and there is and that lowest and best bid exceeds the engineer's estimate, you would then have the discretion to go ahead and award a contract. You wouldn't be required to, but you'd have that ability, which you don't have today. And then finally, there is a catch-all at the end, which says, even if you don't get bids, if you deem it expedient, you have the ability to award a contract that exceeds an engineer's estimate that you've received to estimate the likely cost of the construction project. It's pretty all-encompassing, but again, this doesn't require you to do anything different than what you do today. It just gives you the ability, if that's expedient, or if it makes sense to the governing body, and you're comfortable with the bids that you've received, to go ahead and do that. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Jim?
To be honest, Doug, I didn't have any questions, and I thought it was a good piece of housekeeping, because recently we have had situations where the bids exceeded our expectations, but we did have multiple bids, and it did allow us to proceed and make the proper decision. And this is the right piece of housekeeping to keep that in order. So I would move to approve Charter Ordinance C-43-2025, the charter ordinance exempting the city of Park City from the provisions of KSA 14-4, sorry, let me restate that, KSA 14-440, related to the awarding of contracts for the construction of public improvements.
Linda?
I actually have a question on the charter ordinance that was published, and maybe I'm missing something, but the bottom it says passed and adopted this day of August 2025?
I have corrected that.
Okay, that's all I
I've
wanted to know.
corrected that.
Okay,
Thank you. There's another change that needs to be, there's a typo in the first section too that I need to modify. So
okay.
If it's approved, it would be with changing the reference in the first section to KSA 14-440, not 40, and changing the date down there to April.
Then I would second.
Any further discussion on this? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
John Linehair,
Aye.
Jim Schrader,
Aye.
Terry Osborne,
Aye.
Randy Bailey,
Aye.
Troy Hill,
Aye.
Linda Westhofer,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Charles Schwenke,
Aye.
Charlie Davidson.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0. Okay, we are ready for governing body comments. And we'll start with Charlie.
Can't think of anything. We had a lot of discussion on the golf carts, special utility vehicles, and just encourage anybody in the community that's watching online, if you have input, please email your council member, let us know, so we can kind of make the best decision on what our constituents are wanting as well. That's all I got.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, kudos to our Community Relations Board on this past weekend's annual Easter egg hunt. I hear that went off pretty well. Also, we're working now on our Park City Fishing Derby. This is our 14th annual fishing derby. I can't believe it's been that long, but this will be our 14th year. For those who don't know anything about it, it's free. It's sponsored by the city. It's at Chisholm Point Pond on North Grove, and it's going to be June 14th from 9 to 11. So we'd like everybody to come out and have a good time. Thank you.
Linda.
Very little for me. I did hear great things about the Easter egg hunt this weekend, so that's nice. And again, I won't be here next time, so sad to miss one already, so.
Charles.
Yeah, the fishing derby, we not only need people to come out and have fun, but we need people to come out and help us a little bit with, these kids bring these fish up. They bring up every fish they catch. And the favorite one that they bring up is how small a fish they can catch. I mean, they bring up fishes that are, inch and a half long. And, we measure them and put them in the drink, But Also, I was going to mention, I went to the City Leaders Academy in Lawrence with the League of Municipalities. This was 2 weekends ago now, I guess it was. But found it to be, very informational. And you meet a lot of people. You meet people that know some of you people. In fact, Ron Marsh from Abilene, I spent quite a bit of time with him. He's their city manager. He thought we had a tremendous city manager. So you can add one up for him. But I was going to go through some of the things we talked about, but the meeting's gone on too long, so we'll carry that on to another one.
Just a reminder with the recent beneficial rains and the forecast for rains, we are still under water restrictions, watering restrictions. It is still a thing. So I see a lot of sprinklers running in many days of the week. So just to remind everyone.
Thank you. Troy?
I don't have anything.
Randy?
Just a reminder that CCUA meets Thursday at 4:30 here at Park City Hall.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah, every inch it rains, Terry, that's 1 week we don't have to water our lawn, right? That much water we're
That's
saving.
exactly right.
I did want to throw a shout out to the guys that worked in the park for the tree and limb cleanup Saturday. That was, I know they stood in the somewhat cool weather and a little bit of drizzle, and it was very much appreciated because I know there's a lot of people in the community that really utilized that day. So please tell them thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Second, your comments on the city staff that worked the tree and limb cleanup day. That went smooth. And then he had a great turnout at the park also at the same time for the Easter egg hunt. For the cool weather, I was pretty shocked and surprised how many folks were there. Very pleasant. Also, I want to say at the next meeting, we'll have 2 more appointments that will get the park board filled up. So after that happens, we'll get the park board reconvened. There'll be 3 new members and then 2 held over. And we're going to try to kind of refresh that and get them back on board with exactly what's in the parks. And as we've done our comprehensive park plan and stuff like that, just kind of do an overall inventory of what we have and where we're going and things that are moving in front of us. So anyway, that's it. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Jim.
Adjourn.
Charlie. Motion by Jim, second by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 8-0.